Hello, everyone. I hope you're well. The 5 minute research inquiry appraisal plan. Now, a bit of a mouthful. Look, think performance management, think top down approaches. I want to go through this one idea in greater depth to give you some support in managing line management, difficult conversations, supporting other trainee teachers, whatever it might be. I'm just going to move my camera over here and I just want to walk you through step by step. So I'm recording this in February. Various times of the year, we know that thousands of teachers up and down the country are in one-to-one line management discussions, mentoring meetings, or performance management annual review meetings, explaining why and providing reams and reams of evidence to demonstrate how they perform and why they deserve a pay rise or recognition of their hard work. So some schools ask me how we can move away from performance-related pay appraisal. This is something I've been working on for a good 10 years or so. And this resource offers some of the things that I've learned through my own work in performance management, I suppose, my own research, and looking at some of my doctoral techniques that I'm learning, how we can blend all this together in a 5 minute approach. So think this template as a 5 minute thinking plan. Obviously, the mechanics of doing this might take a bit longer. I'm going to try my best to try and keep this recording as short as I can. So let's go to kind of step one. So we've got this on the screen. You know the Stephen Covey urgent important matrix. The habits are highly effective people. Essentially, what we need to do here is align our personal, professional interests, identify a key research focus, and then narrow the topic down into precise details so that it's achievable to complete within one academic year. So that's ultimately what we're aiming for at this stage. And this is something you can do yourself or with a mentee or a line manager. We need to then narrow some definitions. So we need to think about a good research question, identify keywords, use post-it notes. And then when we get those definitions, consider how we narrow this down. So think, instead of what I used to do, approach my research from an inch deep, mile wide perspective, flip it. We need to go inch wide and mile deep, which is a better way. So sentence starters such as, how can we, under what conditions, what is the best way? Will this make a difference to X, Y, Z? What strategies? What can we do so that? These are great ways to kind of narrow the focus and think about designing that research question. Open-ended questions have a place. They allow possibilities, avoiding yes and no type questions. Maybe questions that begin with how or why or under what conditions. And will it make a measurable difference to people learning in the time that you've got are all very important kind of things to consider. That time frame will know the rhythm of the academic year. So we're trying to get things that work through the appraisal phases in your schools. And in that next phase that we've got here, so obviously there needs to be line management time built in and ideally aligned with whole school CPD, so there's opportunities to meet in smaller groups to share the things that you're finding. So traditionally, we might have questions where you're imposed a target from someone that line manages yourself, whereas things we can do instead, flip it into a research inquiry, or even look at your performance management policy and move away from the linguistics of targets towards the word question. We can just start to design research inquiry questions so that our people that we are line management or people that we look after are more engaged in their performance and in their appraisal because they've engineered their research inquiry. Some examples might include, I'll give you some examples. One, maybe, why do year 12 Bangladeshi students, so there's a specific definition, drop out of A2 history after 1 year of studies? Another one, how does literacy support vulnerable students in year 10 maths, and how could the methods be rolled out further across the year group? Another, do assembly rewards, so punctuality rewards for a definition, lead to better school attendance? Some research I found suggests it actually does the opposite. Another question, why do so many teachers get promoted in core subjects? Is that because there's more positions available, more money available? So these things are interesting external research questions to ask, things that we need to maybe consider in our own performance might not be that type of question. So we've got to think of the purpose of a research question for line management, for mentees, for your own external research purposes. And then we can think about the definitions and how it might be critiqued. Let's move on. So then we want to think about what would be your initial research question before you kickstart the actual project. So I guess from this time frame, we'd be looking between the autumn term, the kind of former part of the autumn term, to have this research question thought process in place so that we are ready to pitch the research question in greater detail. Obviously, everything's got limitations. It's critical that the process is initiated by the school itself, the policies, the people that are leading the line management discussions. Anything on paper is never as good as how it lives out in practice. So those conditions of trust need to be established across the organization. There's obviously privacy and safeguarding issues to consider, but general pedagogical discussions should remain open, transparent. If performance appraisal reviews, for rewarding teachers is about kind of reaching aspirational goals rather than unrealistic goals. So that's something to consider. So let me just pop back to another couple of boxes here. In this stage here, in some other resources elsewhere, we need to just think about the sample class and the control class, or the sample conditions, the control conditions. So it might be a document, it might be a person, it might be a class, it might be an intervention technique. So when we are thinking about sample and control, we have to consider, well, this is how we will always do it, the control method, and this is the sample technique we'll apply to see what the variations are. So that's an important consideration. Think about those timeframes again. So box 4, how you can measure the data from sample and control at those 3 windows to evaluate any difference. Stage 8 here, how you're going to gather the data. So whatever format that's going to look like, tally a tick list of kind of student outcomes. There's many different ways you can do that. And I've got lots of other suggestions on the site if you're interested. I think by this point, whether it's, typically it should be the middle of the academic year, we've got a final and clear research question. The experiments, the interventions are in place. I'm just going to move my camera so you can see this box. In fact, you can pretty much see it anyway. So let me just pop myself up too big over there. The final research question where you've got your exact definitions and the ideas are already living out in greater depth. And then I guess things to consider is how to share the practice, the things that you found. Some great pieces of work. I'll give a shout out to Staffordshire University Academy. Who've got a great document in terms of publishing anonymously what all staff, support staff and teaching staff do for their research across the entire year. It's well worth checking out, and there are others that do this too. But then creating a condition where teachers can come and celebrate and disseminate their findings, that is just as important as doing the work itself. As ever, the starting point must be the ethics, so safeguarding your children that you work with, thinking about when you publish information, how do you anonymize the reports? When you're considering different interventions and control and samples, how do you consider those ethics before you start? Then there's the evaluation, so the reporting side of things. So I've got a great document. If you're interested, get in touch. I'll share it with you. That reference to Staffordshire University Academy, who've got a great kind of full document, good 100 pages of all their different staff sharing their reports and their work that they've done, and then thinking about how they publish this on a kind of 1-page summary as an abstract of all the work that they've done through the year. So this is a methodology. Behind each of these boxes, I've got a whole stack of resources and techniques to support each of these phases. So if you're interested in more, whether you're leading a difficult conversation, whether you're new to leadership, whether you're line managing a colleague, or whether you're mentoring a teacher new to the profession, this you'll find is a good method for constructing conversations for a specific purpose, and in some respects, you can also squeeze this down into kind of half-termly line management discussions. But there's much more, but I'm going to leave things there. This is just a little example of things that you can do. On the website, if you want to find this and download this, just go to the resources tab, on the site, which is over here. Type in the 5-minute research inquiry appraisal plan. A bit of a mouthful. Probably should change that title. And yeah, there's a whole slide deck in there and the template I've just walked through, and I hope you find it useful. If you've got any questions, you know where I am. Bye for now.